Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu as a Ranker. Continuing my Albums of the Year series, these are my top 10 albums from 1981. Now 1981 as a year, not a particularly strong year if I'm being honest. In fact, I think this year is actually probably the weakest of the entire decade of the 80s. When you get into like the top half of the list, there's some really good records up the top of this list, but actually I don't think there are any like stone cold 5-star classics released in 1981, at least not that I've heard. That said, I'm not superhuman. I have not heard every record ever released in 1981, and I'm sure there's a 5-star masterpiece just waiting to be listened to, which, you know, I just haven't heard. If you know of a 5-star classic from this year, please sound off in the comment section. And without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my top 10 albums from 1981. First up on the list is Time by the Electric Light Orchestra, or ELO for short. So I quite like ELO. Their 1977 album Out of the Blue is just one of my favourite records ever. I think it's absolutely fantastic. This one, not nearly as good as that one, but it's still pretty good. Some really nice songs on this. Twilight, of course, is absolutely fantastic. Hold On Tight is really cool too. So there are some really good tracks here, but I feel this record kind of lags in the middle. Like the beginning of this record is really, really strong, like the first bunch of tracks, and then kind of sags in the middle and loses focus, kind of loses its way, rebounds a little bit at the end. Of course, this is a concept album about time travel, which is a really cool concept. I wish they had done more with that. Like I say, it kind of loses focus and it kind of goes off point. So you can't help but think there's a little bit of a wasted opportunity there. Also, the production, it needs to be said, is absolutely fantastic on this record, as it is with pretty much every ELO album. ELO records just sound so good, like the symphonic nature of them, the way that the mix is just rich and full. Yeah, I wish more bands had this type of production, but I guess that's what makes ELO special in a way. So yeah, Time, a good record. But like I said, 1981 isn't a particularly strong year, and I think maybe in a more loaded year like 82 or 84, you know, this wouldn't have gotten into the rankings. But still, in 81, here it is at number 10. Next up, we have Computer World by Kraftwerk. So this is an electronica album. No guitars or anything on this. It's just completely keyboard and synth. The production on this is really good. It's really clean and really simple and holds up really well. It sounds very sort of clinical and modern. I think compared to modern electronica albums, it sort of lacks subtlety and depth, but this was one of the original synth pop albums. Like, this was hugely influential and helped create the genre of electronica. So yeah, some good songs on here. Of course, Computer Love, Coldplay stole the riff and used it for one of their songs called Talk. That's pretty good. And yeah, I think every track on here is solid and interesting. You know, there's some good melodies and it's got a nice kind of clinical, angular feeling to it. Yeah, not much more to say beyond that. I would say that I respect this album more than I actually like it. You know, when I listen to it, I enjoy it. The songs are good. But I think I'm more impressed with its place in history. The fact that this band were doing this, you know, way before anybody else, and that this band and this album inspired like countless musicians to go on and do, you know, I think ultimately stronger work. So yeah, Computer World by Kraftwerk deserves your respect, and a good album to boot. Next up is the self-titled debut album by Duran Duran. So this is just straight on 80s cheese, like right in the middle of the New Romantics movement. Of course, Duran Duran helped popularize that movement. But yeah, this is just a really good pop record. I think this is Duran Duran's strongest album. I know the next album, Rio, gets like more of the critical love, and I think that's mostly because it was more famous and and had bigger hit singles. But I think definitely as an album, this is superior. First 3 tracks on this, brilliant. Girls on Film, Planet Earth, Anyone Out There, just really awesome singles, really catchy stuff. There's a song in the middle of the album, Careless Memories, which is actually like a live track, and at first I was like, oh man, having a live track in the middle of a studio album kind of sucks, but it turns out that is actually like the best song on the album, a completely rocking song, so glad it's on there. And yeah, I think this maintains its quality through the most part. I think that maybe the last couple of tracks are a bit weak, but this is a strong debut from Duran Duran, and just a great piece of just like 80s cheese. If you want to really go hard on the 80s cheese, this is a really good example of that, and a fun one. So yeah, deserving of a place on this list. Reactor by Neil Young is next. So I like Neil Young quite a lot. I think like Neil Young has a special X element that appeals to me. I think even his bad records are kind of interesting. Unlike some bands, who are bad in a really bland way, I think even when Neil Young is bad, I think he's just bad in the kind of interesting way. This record is not considered to be one of his best ones, but I like it quite a lot. This is kind of his grunge record. This is like heavier and more distorted than most of his stuff. I enjoy that kind of change of pace. Some really good songs on here. The opening, Opera Star, really rocking. Surfer Joe and Mold the Sleaze, that's a really good song. The closing track, Shots, is probably the best off the album. I really love that one with its kind of like thunderous drums and like downshifting melodies. Like, that's a really awesome song. And yeah, just this whole record just flows by in the blink of an eye. In the middle of it, you have the hilarious T-Bone, which is just Neil Young repeating the line, I got mashed potatoes, I ain't got no T-bone, over and over and over again for 9 minutes straight. As I said, interestingly bad. Reactor, probably not Neil Young's strongest album, but it's a guilty pleasure for me. I like it, and yeah, it's an easy pick for this list. Next up, we have Faith by The Cure. So this is The Cure's third album. I think it's a good step on from 17 Seconds, their previous album. 17 Seconds kicked off the post-punk aspects of The Cure's sound, and Faith just kind of rolls with it, adds some synth and a lot more atmospheric texture and stuff. Some decent songs on here. The opener, Holy Hour, really great. Primary, it's a pretty, rockin' single. I really love the closing track, the title track, Faith. That's got some excellent atmosphere, really dark. My favourite song on this album is actually All Cats Are Grey, which is a song that I love enough to have covered with my own band. That's also really great. I feel like this album perhaps like lacks a few killer songs, like for example 17 Seconds has like The Forest, and The Letter Pornography has a whole bunch of classics on it, but I feel this one kind of lacks that one killer track, but still I think there's enough atmospheric texture and darkness on here to make this a pretty compelling record. More importantly, it's just like a really good, important step for the band themselves. Next up, we have the debut album Movement from New Order. So on this record, New Order are obviously having some trouble sort of escaping away from Joy Division and Joy Division's sound and way of thinking. The singer Bernard Summer is still well in the shadow of Ian Curtis, and he hasn't really found his own way of doing things. So on this, he just sounds like he's imitating Ian Curtis. So basically, this just sounds like Joy Division's unreleased third album. The sonic texture, the way that the drums and the guitars and the bass intertwine, like I say, Bernard Summer's voice, it's all very, very Joy Division-ish. Of course, Ian Curtis is not in the mix anymore, so it is just a little bit lighter, just because his presence is not actually there. Yeah, and this is just a good, solid record of post-punk. Very angular, very atmospheric. The drums are really great across it. It's got like a really grooving rhythm to it. It just kind of shows you where Joy Division might well have gone if Ian Curtis had survived. So, not much to say about the individual songs, because I feel that these songs are more about like atmosphere more than, you know, actually individually great songs. But yeah, there's enough here to keep you entertained and interested, and a really good debut from New Order. Soon to be like vastly eclipsed by their next record though. Next up, we have Beauty and the Beat, which is the debut album by the Go-Go's. The Go-Go's were a girl guitar pop band. Very sort of innocent vibe, kind of like the Girl Next Door vibe. There's nothing particularly sexy about this. It all feels like very innocent and very twee. But this is an incredibly catchy record, full of just wonderful songs. I think it's really consistent start to finish, not a weak track on there. Takes in such like really awesome pop songs like Our Lips Are Sealed, How Much More, We Got the Beat, Skid Marks on My Heart. Yeah, just a great record start to finish. It's fronted actually by Belinda Carlisle, who would later go on to huge success in the late 80s as a solo star. But yeah, not much more to say about this. I think this is a very polite, well-meaning, just lovely pop record with some great vocal harmonies and some fun pop guitar work. Nice and energetic and just good fun start to finish, and sometimes that's all you need. In the bronze medal position, we have Heaven Up Here by Echo and the Bunnymen, the band's second album. So I recently did a full Ranker episode on Echo and the Bunnymen, so if you want deeper thoughts about this record, please go check that out. But on this album, the Echo and the Bunnymen kind of go in like a darker direction. This is where they kick in the post-punk properly. Lots of towering post-punk classics on this: Over the Wall, Show of Strength, The Disease, All My Colors, like really fantastic songs. And the rest of the record is kind of like funky and angular. Just good stuff all the way through this record. I do think there are a couple of weaker tracks on this one, but as I say, the towering classics on this are just absolutely undeniable. It's a fantastic post-punk record from the 80s. Go check it out, it's great. So, the silver medal for 1981 is going to go to Give the People What They Want by the Kinks. I'm a huge Kinks fan, but unfortunately this is probably going to be the only entry they're going to have in these Album of the Year episode series. Because yeah, this is kind of like their last truly great record. But it's absolutely fantastic. I think almost every song on this record is just brilliant. So many classics. Around the Dial, Give the People What They Want, Add It Up, Destroyer, Back to Front, Yo Yo, Yo Yo. Just so much good stuff on this album. This is the Kinks' heaviest record, without question. This is the moment where they turned into punk and post-punk, and yeah, it just absolutely rocks. I did a full Ranker episode on the Kinks, so if you want to know more about this, go check that out. But yeah, this is just an absolutely fantastic punk, post-punk album, full of great lyrics, catchy songs. Highly recommended. I love it. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 1981 is going to go to Juju by Susie and the Banshees. An absolutely fantastic record. This was Susie and the Banshees' fourth album, and yeah, this is pretty close to 5 stars. This one. This is a really fantastic post-punk record. If you like post-punk, just drop what you are doing and check this out. It's an absolute essential listen. Not a bad track on here. I think everything on this record is absolutely fantastic. It really flows well, is incredibly tight and consistent. Some really great singles on it. Spellbound, the opening track, really catchy. Halloween with its jumbled drums, really cool. Speaking about jumbled drums, Sin in My Heart, really awesome. The more kind of clinical rhythm of Monitor, very danceable song. The way that the closing track, Voodoo Dolly, has its music kind of washing in and out like the waves of the sea. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Arabian Nights, fantastic chorus, you know. I heard a rumor. Like, oh, really good stuff. Yeah, so this is just a great atmospheric album of post-punk. As I've already said, if you like post-punk, check it out. You won't regret it. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's my list for 1981, but of course that's not going to be your list. So please sound off in the comment section and tell me what's on your list for 1981. Like, share, subscribe, and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Keep yourself healthy, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.